Once again, let's focus and talk about the global setup this morning in context of what Trump has said. Lots to talk about. Let's welcome on board Mr. Arvind Sanger, Managing Partner, Geosphere Capital Management. And Arvind, hi, morning. Thanks so much for your time this morning. Like I mentioned, lots to talk about when it comes to Trump, his commentary on EU, China, India, pharma. Let's begin by talking about what he said on pharma. A sharp hike up in tariffs is what he's announced to 250% eventually over the course of next 12 months. How do you see this playing out for pharma exporters to the U.S. and especially their companies within the U.S. as of now?
Well, remember, he had already said 200% a couple of weeks ago. So now he said 150 going to 250. So it's not a huge, to be perfectly honest, 200, 250, who cares? The bottom line is that he's trying to phase it in over time and try to encourage more pharmaceutical companies to set up manufacturing in the U.S. Clearly, that's a disadvantage for, the Indian pharmaceutical companies that are reliant on exports to the U.S. And that will be a headwind. And that's something that's, market has known for a few weeks now. So I don't think it's any incrementally, significantly new news. I think that headwind is out there. And I think that's something that is going to create an impact. It may just be, it won't go to either 150 or 250 right away, or it may start with 150, but it is going to impact negatively the pharmaceutical industry.
All right, so negative impact expected for the pharma sector overall. Hi, Arvind. Morning. This is Shrishti also joining in. But Trump's commentary is coming very harsh on the Indian market as well. Given the fact that he is again saying that in the next 24 hours, a substantial hike is what he's planning. And within the Asia-Pacific region, a contrarian commentary on China, where he's saying that the deal could be really through, and he's even going ahead and planning a meeting with Xi Jinping. On the flip side, it's EU, where he's again threatening that if the conditions are not met, he might hike it to 35%. How do you see the Trump's tariff tantrum playing out specifically for India as well as China, and how do you think the markets will take it?
Well, it sounds like China has something that he wants. And the two things that Trump wants, one is they need the rare earths in the short term. And two is Trump is quite desperate to go to China and meet with Xi and have a big photo op. So those are the two cards that China is playing to its benefit. China imports as much oil from Russia as India does. India doesn't have a similar trump card that, no pun intended, that Trump, that it can play against Trump. So I think at this point, it is a question of, Witkoff is going to Moscow tomorrow. Putin has held out some kind of an olive branch of some sort by trying to negotiate that I will not put air attacks in exchange for not doing these tariffs. So I don't know how this will all play out. My sense is that Trump is unlikely to do anything dramatically escalatory against India because on the Russia oil buying front, because if India were to stop buying Russian oil completely, Russia would not be able to find enough buyers to replace that, which means Russian oil would, at least some of it would be off the market, which would definitely cause oil prices to spike a lot. And I think we have to keep that significant factor in mind that whether it comes to Iran or it comes to Venezuela, and certainly when it comes to Russia, Trump's bark has been so far worse than his bite. So to expect anything different this time when in Iran he has said so much, but Iranian oil flows have not been impacted. So I wouldn't be sweating. My personal opinion is I'm not sweating on the fact that he's really serious about stopping Russian oil flows, because so far he has proved to be a toothless tiger when it comes to stopping oil flows from any other major country.
Oh, yeah, like you actually said, it was not really a pun, but everyone needs a trump card right now, don't they? But, domestically speaking, Arvind, what I wanted to understand was, what is the large concern about India? Forget what's going to come out of tariffs. Why this consistent sell-off from FIIs? And what should domestic investors be doing right now?
Well, if you look at the earnings numbers, if you look at auto sales, you look at two-wheeler sales, you look at, any economic statistic, India-specific, it's not the kind that suggests the multiples that Indian market is trading at makes it a value buy. So Indian fundamental growth is not flying off the charts. India was a growth story. People were coming to India for the growth story. Yes, it may be the fastest growing major economy in the world still, but it's not showing up in the earnings numbers in a meaningful way to get people like me excited to pound the table and say, you know what, India has become such a value buy that I have to buy it. So the rupee is weakening. That's taking away from, from a dollar investor attractiveness of India. And the Indian economy is not showing momentum. And if the export part of the economy takes a bit of a hit, we have to find some domestic plays where domestic growth is visible. And I think one of the things that the Indian government may have to do is to be a little more aggressive, not just RBI, but on the fiscal side, be willing to take a little bit more of a deficit to kickstart growth. And if they were to do that, then I think the Indian domestic growth story, whether it's a consumption story or it's an infrastructure story, or it's leisure and travel or whatever, these are the things that we think would benefit. But I think the Indian government will have to step up because growth itself, by itself right now, doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look extremely robust either.
Fair point. Okay, let's see what the RBI has to do. It's their day today, and I think the commentary on growth is going to be extremely critical. What they have to say about that, and more importantly, the pass-through of the front-loading of 50 bips that they did in the previous policy. That's going to be something that market watchers also would be looking at for. But Arvind, thanks for your time today. Good speaking with you as always.